play drumbeat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scaver when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are going to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
20-34. They have 14 games below 500. Any given night, you have no idea who is going to play for Philadelphia. Embiid has missed so many more games than he has actually played this year.
I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens because for the last 4 years now, I do it every year, and I want to hit myself in the head with a bat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
And welcome in. A very happy Wednesday to you. It is Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. I'm Joe Raineri, and are you ready for some madness? Because we're going to get a whole lot of it over the next 72 hours, that's for sure. And it'll start tonight as day 2 of the madness here. Will bring us, I believe 11 games on tap here tonight. The NIT is in full effect. We also have the Dayton Flyers getting ready to tip off here, 6:40 Eastern time, with, of course, American versus Mount St. Mary's, as that will be your play-in game, the very first one here. We had 2 last night, which turned out to be interesting, to say the least. Will tonight be just as interesting? Usually we don't see names like Texas or Xavier in a play-in situation, but that's exactly what we've got here tonight with the late game with Xavier taking on the University of Texas, and 2.5 threes is what we're still seeing here in the marketplace for Xavier, who lost in inexplicable fashion in the Big East tournament last week. They, however, have been playing some of their best basketball down the stretch. I believe winners 7 of their last 8. Texas has also known that they have been on the bubble for quite a while. They, too, have been playing much better basketball down the stretch, as they knew their tournament lives depended on it. Now, we did see last night North Carolina not be in a position like they were in a very long time, where they've got to win to get in. But I think we all watched as North Carolina, they were hell-bent on making sure that people who had negative things to say about them ate their words last night, 95-68. This game was over in the first 10 minutes as North Carolina. Now, listen, this is not a great North Carolina team, but maybe something we should all pull away from what we noticed last night in that game was the effort that North Carolina put in on the defensive end. variance with three-point shots is always going to be there, especially, well, that's why they call it madness, quite honestly. And San Diego State, who happens to be one of the top 15, 20 best perimeter defenses, interior defenses in the country. That is how San Diego State wins games. And yet, as good as they have been this year, there's no mistaking three-point variance where everything North Carolina threw up last night ended up going in. But that will come and go. I think the thing that North Carolina showed me last night was that defensive effort to make life extremely difficult for San Diego State and then basically close the game out in the first half. There was no way San Diego State was coming back from that game last night. My fear tonight is that we're going to see with Texas and Xavier, and this is the thing that drives me crazy about Texas all year long, is that they are a jump shooting team. They love their mid-range jump shots. Both these teams have scoring coming out of their ears. They have tremendous guards. They got great forwards, although they do have a couple of big men. Zach Fremantle, of course, for Xavier. Feels like he's been around forever. But the problem is they don't get to the rim an awful lot, this University of Texas team. And when you are a jump shooting team, you live or die by the jump shooter. And there have been a number of games this year with the University of Texas in which the scoring disappears for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, where they can't hit a shot. My fear is the shooting for Xavier, coupled with the fact that they are a top 10 defensive rebounding team. They're not going to give Texas great opportunities for second chance points, which means if they go 5 or 6 minutes in this game here tonight without scoring, we could see exactly what we saw last night with Xavier running away with this game, because nobody has got better outside shooting than what Xavier brings to the table. This is a team that, with a head coach, by the way, who has been very unpredictable, to say the least, over the years. But you gotta love this matchup here for all the marbles tonight. Can Texas score enough and not fall behind, giving themselves almost an impossible hill to climb? I think this is going to be one of the better games that we see. I think it's going to be buckle up. This should be an awful lot of fun. Whether it's Xavier or it's Texas, boy, their next game is the one that's going to be real interesting. We'll have more on that coming up, but let's not forget American, we told you, against Mount St. Mary's. How many of you had Mount St. Mary's in the tournament with an opportunity to... No, I didn't think so here. The interesting part about this game isn't so much the side, it's what the total has been doing since this game and line to open up. This opened up around 134 and a half, and it has been nothing but under money in this game. Even so much so, 127 and a half, 128 and a half. These are not two teams that are going to light anybody up offensively. The pace, this is going to be a lot like watching paint dry. But ultimately, somebody's got to win this game, but it looks like the market has decided that the great value in this, in all likelihood, is going to be on the total. And I agree with that. Listen, Mount St. Mary's, what a story for them to be able to come and do what they did. Mind you, their two best players, two starters, they ended up winning their tournament down two starters. And by the way, they're going to be down those guys again here tonight. But what a unbelievable effort, and what they did to Iona, how they took them out, and then ultimately winning that last game and getting it done, giving themselves an opportunity. Pretty impressive stuff here. But I got to tell you, American, boy, they beat Colgate like Colgate didn't know what they were doing. This is a team that can shoot the three, and I expect a lot of them to be raining from them tonight. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to, can they make enough threes to put the pressure on Mount St. Mary's and run away with this game? If they do, well, this game is going to be over rather quickly for American. Again, just ask, how'd that work out for Navy? How'd that work out for Colgate? Didn't work out well for him. When those shots start falling, this team gets into a rhythm. This could be a game much like last night where it's over by the time we get to the intermission. So obviously, whether it's the play-in games here or the NIT, which proved to be pretty exciting last night, we got plenty more of those games coming up that we're going to go over. But let's not forget, we got a loaded slate here in the association tonight. The NBA is going to be all eyes on, I don't know, maybe a late game here tonight when the Denver Nuggets take on the Los Angeles Lakers, as both of these teams in the West down the stretch battling for seeding position here. Now for Denver, it appears who's going to play. Does look like Jamal Murray. It does look like the Joker are going to be available to them. For LA, not so clear a picture as far as injuries go. It doesn't look like LeBron is back. So Luka, who we just saw, held his own pretty well in Denver. Can he do it again tonight? We got much more on the association as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday now, March 19th. The madness is here. It is upon us as we have day two of the play-in games coming up here tonight. We've got the NIT in full effect as well. A lot of West Coast games, West Coast teams in action here tonight. We'll dive in to some of those coming up, including Loyola Chicago taking on San Jose State, as well as Utah Valley taking on the Dons of San Francisco. That is a little late night action for those of us here on the East Coast. I will mention this also. We're starting to see some significant money coming in all day on these NIT games to the over. We had 7 games last night, and we saw a 6-1, 6 overs, only 1 under last night, as these NIT games tends to get a little bit less defense, a little bit more let's run up and down the court no matter what our pace is and see if we can score as many points as we like. We saw it last night with Northridge and Stanford. We saw it with my boys from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Oklahoma State handled business going over the total against Wichita State. We're starting to see it here again today in a lot of these games where the money continues to push to the over. So keep that in mind when you get ready to take a look at some of these games tonight. The CBI kicks off this weekend. The CBC also gets ready to go. So plenty more college basketball, not just in the tournament, but plenty other opportunities to cash a few tickets coming up over the next few weeks. I had mentioned the NBA in full effect here tonight as we are nearing the end of the NBA regular season. We have some teams that are battling for their tournament lives, so to speak. They want to be able to get into the postseason. We do have a couple extra spots this year for teams to be able to qualify. And of course, once you get into the playoffs, anything is possible. That is, of course, unless you are the Miami Heat. And this is a game that's very interesting, is now the Miami Heat have lost 8 games in a row. It is the longest losing streak that they have had under Eric Spoelstra. And I can tell you this amazingly, as they have fallen now to the 10th seed in the Eastern Conference standings. This is a team, all the quotes that I am seeing out of that locker room from these players is that nobody is thrown in the towel. They're not waving the white flag. They know they're up against it. There is plenty of experience in that locker room here. But all they have to do is turn this thing around and win a couple of games that are very winnable here. They still have some time to play their way out of the 10th seed and get somewhere in that 7th or 8th seed for the play-in tournament. So Miami is not rolling over, and yet here they are at home tonight catching 5 points against the Detroit Pistons, who, let's face it, nobody saw them at this point being, 38-31 on the season? Some people I know have already bet them to make some noise in the future market in the playoffs. However, there's not a lot separating the Miami Heat from the Detroit Pistons, except for the fact that Detroit, in many aspects, has overplayed their hand. This is a team that is playing well above expectations and, quite honestly, well above what the talent level is on that team. And we can all make the argument that Miami has far more talent than anything that we have seen them put out on the floor down the stretch. They've had a lot of noise. They've had a lot of outside interference, having to deal with the whole Jimmy Butler thing and everything else. But the reality is the Heat have an opportunity still. Their season is not over, and I fully anticipate tonight you're going to get a huge effort from the Tyler Heroes and the Bam Adebayos here. I don't even care if Andrew Wiggins plays, because it looks like he's probably not. However, you are going to get a huge effort here from Miami tonight. This feels like the bottom of the market for the Miami Heat. It feels like this is the opportunity with them at home, with that crowd. It feels like now is the time to take those points here. And don't forget, the home teams have won every game in this series this year so far. Miami won the first one at home. Detroit won the next 2 in their building. However, they only won by a possession in both games. It is not as if they had blown out the Miami Heat. Miami has an opportunity here tonight, not only to stay within this number, but to win this game. And I fully anticipate them to do that. So I love taking the 4.5, 5 points. I will also sprinkle a little something here on the Miami Heat money line. Now is the time for you to get that championship quality metal and get it going here, Miami. And I fully anticipate that Eric Spoelstra will have the troops ready here tonight to get it done against the Pistons. The other interesting game here tonight we mentioned, how about the Cleveland Cavaliers all of a sudden on a losing streak? Not only did they lose to Orlando of all teams over the weekend to break a 16-game winning streak, they lost to the Clippers last night, who, by the way, quietly are playing their best basketball of the season here. They, too, have been winning a ton of games here. And it finally looks like Kawhi Leonard, looks like he's getting back to the Kawhi Leonard. Looks like he's healthy. Looks like he's back into rhythm. Norm Powell back in the lineup. All of a sudden, the Clippers are not a team to mess around with. However, Cleveland loses that game last night. Now they have a second night of a back-to-back taking on Sacramento minus Sabonis, at least for the next week or so. And yet they're still being priced at 5.5 points like the Cavs care. I don't think the Cavs are going to risk anything on this West Coast trip here. It wouldn't shock me if a couple of late scratches come. The Cavs already know what they've got to do. Kenny Atkinson has been around the block. Whether or not they beat Sacramento or not is really not important to them at this point. They have other fish to fry. I'm going to take the points with Sacramento here tonight. I think they get it done. And then what about the Lakers in Denver? We'll give you the latest on who's in and who's out as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
They've made the Sweet 16 each of the past 2 years, but really getting beyond that, past the Elite Eight, to a Final Four, that is where the Vols have struggled.
UCLA, I don't even know if they get past Utah State in that 7-10 matchup, to be quite honest with you. A Kentucky team that goes and ebbs and flows. Illinois at the 6. Which Illinois team we getting?
Only on SportsGrid.
Kind of like this. I know Bosa gets banged up and he doesn't play a lot, but for 1 year, I could take a shot.
And guys go there and they play well. Guys go there and they have success. Guys go there, they go to the playoffs. And look, I thought Von Miller sucked. I think Joey Bosa is way better than Von Miller, not back in the day, but he is now.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on Sport.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Gators' resume is excellent. We know how hard it is to win on the road in college. They've won at Auburn and at Bama.
Michigan State is 17-5 in quad one, quad twos. Are they a one seed? I think not. They may make claims if they make a run and there's craziness in the SEC.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we get ready for a full slate on the hardwood tonight in the NBA. We'll have updates on the injury reports for you coming up, but now would be a good time to check in with our good friends Joe Madden and Tom Vecchio and see what's on tap for tonight's Sports Millions Pick'em. What do you guys got going on tonight?
Happy Wednesday, everyone. It's time to jump into our Sports Millions pick'ems. Tom, I went 1-1 yesterday. North Carolina flew up and down that court, so RJ Davis had a huge day. He went nicely higher than 16.5 points. Unfortunately, I was on the lower, but we did get Miles Bird coming out there lower than the 12.5. He hit 12. How did your picks do yesterday, and what are you going to jump into today?
I also went 1-1 yesterday. Kelly stayed lower with only 7 points. His line was at 10.5. CJ Hines, 10 points from him. We needed him to go higher than 13.5. He shot 4 of 15 from the field. So, he was tied for the most shots on his team, the most shots in the entire game. He had his chances. He just didn't get there. Let's turn to today. Mount St. Mary's taking on American University. Let's start with American University. Matt Rogers higher than 17.5 points. It's a bit of a high line, but he is their guy on offense. He leads the team in points, field goal attempts, field goals made. He can hit from deep. He's been over this number in 6 out of the last 10 games. And a lot of these games, he's pushing past 20 points. Not like he's just scraping by. We're seeing him into the upper 20s, mid-20s at times. Now, both of these teams play a little bit slow. Mount St. Mary's, though, they are not good on defense. They are 176th in KenPom defensive rating this year. I'm not worried about the matchup. I'm just worried about the possessions overall. That would be the thing to hold Rogers back. But when push comes to shove, they have limited possessions. The ball should be going to their main players with Matt Rogers, so higher than 17.5 points. On the other side, Mount St. Mary's, Dola Adebayo, higher than 6.5 rebounds. American is a very, very solid rebounding team. They are 55th in the country in terms of fewest rebounds allowed per game to their opponents. So it is a defensively tough matchup, you could say, for Adebayo. He may not have a ton of chances, but if they're going to keep things close, everyone has to make that extra effort to grab those rebounds. So he's been higher than this number in 7 of the last 10 games. We've seen a lot of these games. He's not just getting past with 7. He's pushing to double-digit rebounds. So Adebayo higher than 6.5 rebounds. Rogers higher than 17.5 points, giving us 3x multiplier. Joe, what do you have?
Going to be a great matchup there. I'm going to look at the first 4 showdown between Texas and Xavier. Now, this should be a battle out there on the hardwood. We got Texas coming in off the loss to Tennessee in the set, 82-73, and Xavier coming off. They were so hot rolling into their last game versus Marquette, winning 7 in a row, and Marquette destroying that in the quarterfinals in the Big East, losing that game 89-87. Now, both of these teams really looking to push it into the first round. They need the win here, and I do think because of that, we're going to see those points coming on the board. I'm looking at 2 players here, one from both teams. First, I'll start with Texas. Trey Johnson here higher than 25.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Look for Trey Johnson to really lead the Texas Longhorns in this matchup. He does lead the team in points with 19.8 on the season, 3 rebounds, and 2.8 assists per game. He's had 8 games this season where he's been able to clear 25 points alone in those games, not accounting his rebounds and assists. I'm expecting a really big day out of him here. He had that standout game versus Arkansas a couple of weeks ago. He was able to put 39 points in that game. And over his last 3 games in the Big 12 tournament, he shot 48.5% from the field, had 5.3 rebounds and 4.1 assists. Now, in this game, we know Marquette's so strong in the paint. We're going to have to rely on him hitting a lot of these points from deep, and that's why I'm looking at his rebounds and assists as well. I think he's going to get those on the board. I think he's going to hit from deep, and he's going to be able to go over or higher than 25.5 points, rebounds, and assists. When I'm looking at the other side for Xavier here, I am looking at Zach Freemantle. Now, Zach Freemantle has a number higher than 25.5 points and rebounds combined, and I will be taking that. I'm looking for the big man to come out really strong in this one. He's going to win the rebound battle under the basket, and he's really strong at knocking down those 3-pointers as well, so Trey Johnson's going to have to get past him. But I am looking for Freemantle to be able to put the points on the board as well as those rebounds. He's leading this team, averaging 17.3 points per game, 7.1 rebounds per game. In his last 5 games out there on the hardwood as well, he's just been so strong. Average.
drumbeat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Raineri, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are to learn we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience who's gone out and recruited, who know how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
20-34. They are 14 games below 500. Any given night, you have no idea who is going to play for Philadelphia. Embiid has missed so many more games than he has actually played this year.
I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens because for the last 4 years now, I do it every year, and I want to hit myself in the head with a bat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday as the madness. It is here, and it's about to get even more maddening over the next 48 to 72 hours, which is why we are so happy to welcome back in a new proud dad, in fact, CT Bets, Chris Thurston in the house. And I want to thank you for sticking me with Kenny White, the Wizard, for the last couple of weeks. But you had a pretty good excuse there, CT. So we're all right with it. We are absolutely happy for you. And I know the little guy is absolutely a Baylor Bears fan, so we'll get into that in a minute. But tonight, when it comes to these play-in games, the first game probably going to be a snooze fest. This second game with Xavier in Texas, this is going to be fascinating here. I do give the coaching edge to Xavier, but ultimately it's going to come down to who makes shots, right? Isn't ultimately with these two teams?
Yeah, this should be the better of the two, Joe. I didn't really play anything here. I kind of leaned Texas, but we'll get into it when our good friend Wizard of Oz gets on here. I know he has a play on Xavier, so that was good enough to keep me off of Texas. But Texas so inconsistent. All year long, right? They do take care of the ball pretty well. They can shoot it beyond the arc. They're physical on the defensive side, but they foul so much, Joe, that they allow teams to get to the line. That ends up hurting them in the second half there. Xavier, Joe, it's kind of make it make sense again for me, right? Like they had the second worst record in quad one wins outside of UNC. Yeah, I get it. I saw what UNC did last night, but that doesn't mean that they should have been there in the tournament. That's a story for another day. Good guards for Xavier, but they give up a lot of easy buckets here. I just thought with like the veterans that Texas has, with Pope, Mark, Kuma, and they have an absolute elite star in the freshman Trey Johnson. I just had to lean towards Texas, but like I said, it was good enough to keep me off it because I know the Wizard of Oz likes Xavier.
Listen, I think between you mentioned it there, Johnson and Ryan Conwell, the two freshmen that are absolutely studs on the court here tonight for both of these teams. As I guess all you had to do was click your heels CT, and the Wizard shows up, I believe, here. Mr. Kenny White in the house here. And Kenny, the madness is upon us, but talk to me about this game here tonight. Both teams have played their best down the stretch here. What are we going to get?
Yeah, we really have, guys. Xavier, winners of 8 in a row or 7 in a row to win the end the regular season. I've had Xavier rated just a little bit higher than Texas most of the year. What put me on this game is the NCAA committee did Dayton a huge favor. Hey, we're going to put Xavier in your barn, and you're going to have 9,000 people show up to the game. You're going to get a sellout for one of these NCAA tournament play-in games. And it's going to be all Xavier fans tonight in this building. I also think Sean Miller's a really good basketball coach. I watched him at Arizona. I think he did a very, very good job at Arizona. And I think that he's got a lot to prove still. I think this guy wants a major job, and I think he's the better coach in this game. I just haven't really impressed with Terry for Texas yet. I think he had one good year his first year. Might have been new excitement into the program, but the last 2 years have been really rather average for him. So, yeah, I'm on Xavier for those reasons.
Yeah, I like it. The problem is for me in Texas is they're a mid-range jump shooting team, and if they go 4 or 5 minutes without scoring like they've done, you're going to dig yourself a hole against this team, and that worries me here tonight, which is why I stayed off on the over as well here. But we've got a lot of contrasting styles and games coming up, CT, and let me ask you about VCU and BYU, two teams going at it in a totally different fashion during the regular season. VCU suffocating defense, which could be a problem since BYU likes to score from 3, and that's it. What happens in this game?
Yeah, I mean, the Cougars, it's no secret, right? They could score it well, except for their last game when they played an elite Houston defense, and they couldn't do a damn thing, right? So as well as they shoot it, I think between the turnover rate that the Cougars have and the absolute, you said it best, the pressure and the suffocation that VCU will apply on defense, that the Cougars could be in for a real test. VCU reminds me of a smaller school Houston, the new head coach, Ryan Odom. I think he's done a tremendous job with this mid-major, and they're a live pup in this one here. I bet the opener, I bet plus 3.5, Joe. Still like plus 3. Think they're live to win this game. They're going to need to contain the BYU guards and kind of limit the scoring opportunities. They were 2-1 in quad 1 games this year, Joe. So they're more than capable of playing with the big boys. So VCU, very live here. And, man, you said it best, suffocate. I like that word on defense. So VCU for me here.
It's crazy how good they have been, and that's how they win games. And, Kenny, this is a heck of a matchup, too, here. Is it a coin flip? Some people believe it is. Some people believe it isn't. But the Creighton Blue Jays taking on the Louisville Cardinals, who are a little banged up here. But how do you approach this game here at this number?
Yeah, well, it was very important, Joe, to make sure Rain Smith was playing tonight for Louisville. He's in the lineup. He's their number 1 3-point shooter. 277 3-point attempts this year. Louisville attempts is 19th most threes in the country to compare to their 2-point shots. They're not a great 3-point shooting team, but Rain Smith is, and they needed to have him. Without him, they'd be in trouble. Pat Kelsey won more games this year than Louisville won the last 3 years combined. This is an amazing turnaround. This guy knows how to coach college basketball. Now, obviously, McDermott does for Creighton, and he's had a great team for many years. But I do think one thing, you guys played sports all your life. You've been around coaches. One thing, when you've been there for 14 years and now kids have been in college for 5 or 6 years, the reason why managers and coaches in other sports move from team to team so often, because the message gets lost. It's the same over and over and over again. The kids forget what it really means. I think that message could be lost at Creighton with 14 years from McDermott. Pat Kelsey is fresh. His kids responded. He's got a really good team. He brought in guys from all different teams and got them to mesh in 1 year. And the kicker, they're playing in Lexington. There's going to be 12,000 Louisville fans in the building. This is going to be a sold-out Louisville home court. I think they get the W. I love how they're playing. And, hey, as long as Rain Smith's raining threes, they're going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think Creighton, their season, hey, they beat UConn in the Big East tournament. Then we saw what happened against St. John's. Louisville, except for that Duke game, what was it, 11 straight they rattled off here. I think this is definitely a Louisville favorable opportunity here to be able to advance. Everybody I know seems to think Iowa State's in trouble, especially laying 2 touchdowns. I don't think so. What do you think against Lipscomb here?
Yeah, I mean, this is a team here that I've kind of been on all year, Joe, and they're very well coached with TJ Otzelberger. He's in his 4th year here, and I get it. No Gilbert done for the rest of the year. That's unfortunate for Iowa State, but between Lipsy, Jones, Monchovic finally being healthy here, I think they got plenty of firepower to get the job done. Lipscomb, not a very highly power-rated team. Cyclones manhandle teams like this, Joe. I made the game in the 20. I made the game Iowa State minus 20. I like Iowa State to blow doors here and send the message that they're still live without Gilbert.
I am with you. It's Lipscomb going to be in trouble when they fall behind in this game for sure. All right, don't go anywhere. CT Betts, Chris Thurston, Kenny White are going to come back. We got a couple of more games to preview, and then we'll talk maybe future champion when Game Time Decisions continues.
They've made the Sweet 16 each of the past 2 years, but really getting beyond that, past the Elite 8, to a Final Four, that is where the Vols have struggled.
UCLA, I don't even know if they get past Utah State in that 7-10 matchup, to be quite honest with you. A Kentucky team that goes and ebbs and flows. Illinois at the 6. Which Illinois team we getting?
Only on SportsGrid.
Kind of like this. I know Bosa gets banged up and he doesn't play a lot, but for 1 year, I could take a shot.
And guys go there and they play well. Guys go there and they have success. Guys go there, they go to the playoffs. And look, I thought Von Miller sucked. I think Joey Bosa is way better than Von Miller, not back in the day, but he is now.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on Sports.
2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Gators' resume is excellent. We know how hard it is to win on the road in college. They've won at Auburn and at Bama. Michigan State is 17-5 in quad 1, quad 2s. Are they a 1 seed? I think not. They may make claims if they make a run and there's craziness in the SEC.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri joined again by our good friends, the Wizard, Mr. Kenny White, and CT Betts, ready to roll here as the madness is upon us, gentlemen. Now is the time. Let's hit a couple of more of these games. And CT, let me come back to you for our Baylor Bears. Yeah, listen, frustrating team all year long. However, started to turn it around a little bit here down the stretch. Maybe the most inconsistent team, Mississippi State, is the wrong team favorite in this one.
Yeah, Joe, I agreed with the opener when they opened Baylor as the favorite, and I think it's a pretty good matchup. Not even being biased towards Baylor here, I really like them. I think what we saw out of them closing the regular season, they played a really tight game with Houston at home. There had them on the ropes. They were leading at the half, and I like what I saw of them in the Big 12 tournament. Right, they ran K-State, the Wildcats, out of the building. They had a huge second half comeback versus Texas Tech. DJ Edgecombe had a last-second three-ball chance to win the game there that almost went. And let's talk about coaching, right? They have the veteran coaching with Scott Drew and the veteran players as well with Omier, Roach, Jay Nunn, all seniors with tournament runs under their belts. And we were talking about this off air real quick, and you guys brought it up. They had guard injury problems all year long. Langston Love, Jay Nunn was out with the flu. Roach was out for a long, long time. I think they're finally back and they're healthy outside of Josh, the big man, who unfortunately is out for the year, but they could rebound the ball very, very well, especially the guards for Baylor, playing a Mississippi State team that dropped 5 of their last 7 here, like the Bears to outscore them here and outshoot their way to a victory and a chance to play Duke in the second round.
Yeah, not a great congratulations. Here's Duke for you. But I do think I'm with you that they get past this first round. And Kenny, everyone's looking for the dogs, right? Tomorrow and Friday. I think you got one here, though, because this would not shock me. Purdue early tomorrow taking on High Point, a team not a lot of people know. But if you know anything about the Purdue history, they usually lose this game. Kenny, do they not?
Yeah, they do, Joe. They do come up with a clunker every now and then early in the NCAA tournament, and they're a very good offensive team. Purdue is, but their defense is lacking. They've lived on offense all year. Well, they're playing a team that is a great offensive team. High Point. It's shocking. I say great. They were 36th best efficient offense last year, so it wasn't a fluke. They're 25th most efficient offense this year. The coach, Alan Hess, 2 years, 56-14 record. This guy's a really good basketball coach. He knows what he's doing. He's taken a program that Tubby Smith once ran and brought players in. His son Gigi took the program over, couldn't do anything. So there were players there. They just weren't getting coached up. This guy has coached them up. The defense has improved. They haven't played a tough schedule. So, people will look and say, well, they haven't played anybody. That's true. They haven't, but they've beaten everybody in front of them. They can score enough. Since Purdue's defense is rather average, they're going to put points on the board. If Purdue's not hitting their shots, this team does everything well offensively, everything. And their defense isn't bad. The only thing they don't do well on defense is create turnovers. They don't create turnovers. Big deal. They still play solid defense. So I like High Point a lot here in this spot.
All right, liking High Point a lot here. And CT, I tell you another game that I think is probably going to get us some points is Grand Canyon taking on Maryland. Talk to me about this game. Oh, wait a minute. I don't know if he heard us there. Did you get us, CT?
Sorry, I'm back, Joe. Couldn't hear you there for a second.
No problem. No problem. Maryland taking on Grand Canyon. 11.5 points I'm seeing. Feels like there could be a ton of points in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third straight tourney appearance for the Lopes. And we were just talking about Scott Drew, and this is little brother here, Bryce Drew. And he's been great for the Lopes. And they come in a dominant win in the finals over Utah Valley. Some momentum going here. Last year, Joe, if you remember, they had a 12-5 game, I believe it was, and they played St. Mary's, a very good St. Mary's team, and they beat them. And they also had Bama on the ropes in the second round. That was a very tight game. The Lopes have a very similar team this year. They play at an even faster pace than they did last year. Joe, I think that this Lopes team, they just weren't themselves this year, and they really underperformed, right? Mainly due to injuries. Bryce Drew, like these kids love him. They play hard for him. They could disrupt you on offense. The Terps are really young here, and I don't think they should be laying this many here. I think it's too many. I think the Lopes will be live here. Grant Foster seems to be healthy, which was a problem for the Lopes all year long. He's playing more and more minutes as the games go on here. The talent's there for Grand Canyon, so I expect them to stay within the 11.5 in this one.
Yeah, it feels like there could be a boatload of points in there, but I'm with you there, CT. I think that's far too many for this Maryland team. Kenny, let me ask you, big picture here, my friend. Is there a bracket or a team you think we should be keeping an eye on here, possibly to win it all? Is it just Duke again? And here we, I want to throw up just thinking about it.
Yeah, when my daughter asked me for my bracket to take a look at it, she looked at it and said, "This is all chalk." I said, "Yeah, well, I made these teams favorites, so they got to move on." So I said, "You know what? Well, let me go back and look and see where I think an upset can happen." Now, the East is very unpredictable. We don't know how Cooper Flagg's ankle is going to be, if he's going to respond. And Grant Nelson for Alabama injured his knee in the last game against Florida. He's not playing in the first game. We don't know what's going to happen with him. But I've got Michigan State coming out of the South as a team that could be a surprising team into the Final Four. Tom Izzo, and then St. John's with Rick Pitino coming out of the West to be in the finals against Houston. I think Houston wins it all.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I think you and CT are on the same page with that one there. Gentlemen, the madness is here. Thank you so much for stopping by. We'll talk to you again as Game Time Decisions continues.
They've made the Sweet 16 each of the past 2 years, but really getting beyond that, past the Elite Eight, to a Final Four, that is where the Vols have struggled.
UCLA, I don't even know if they get past Utah State in that 7-10 matchup, to be quite honest with you. A Kentucky team that goes in ebbs and flows. Illinois at the 6. Which Illinois team we getting?
Only on SportsGrid.
Kind of like this. I know Bosa gets banged up and he doesn't play a lot, but for 1 year, I could take a shot.
And guys go there and they play well. Guys go there and they have success. Guys go there, they go to the playoffs. And look, I thought Von Miller sucked. I think Joey Bosa is way better than Von Miller, not back in the day, but he is now.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on Sport.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Gators' resume is excellent. We know how hard it is to win on the road in college. They've won at Auburn and at Bama.
Michigan State is 17-5 in quad one, quad twos. Are they a one seed? I think not. They may make claims if they make a run and there's craziness in the SEC.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we look to close out this first hour together. And, well, we're waiting for the madness. It's already here. Day number 2 of the play-in taking center stage right now. In fact, we've got one game underway already as American now with an 8-0 run retakes the lead against Mount St. Mary. Still got about
12 and a half minutes ago in the first half on that one. American closed as a slight 2.5 point favorite. The game afterwards, Xavier taking on Texas, all eyes, with a chance to be an 11 seed and move on. Well, tonight we're seeing Texas get a little bit of money here. 2.5 is what we see right now. And I do want to remind you, folks, that if the Sports Millions Pick'em isn't your thing, don't forget about the Sports Millions Blitz'em.
Enjoy Sports Millions Pick'ems, but hate making the picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over and play Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/blitz'em.
Love it. All right, Tom, appreciate that. Also coming up here tonight, got plenty of NIT action still, including, speaking of Dayton, how about them Dayton Flyers going to be in Boca Raton taking on the FAU Owls as a slight favorite in that game. Also, George Mason taking it at home, taking on Samford in a game also during this 7 o'clock hour coming up. George Mason, of course, a little disappointing finish to their opportunities in their conference championship, but maybe nobody more disappointed than the UAB, the Blazers, who had Memphis on the ropes in the American Athletic Conference Championship. UAB could have punched their ticket and moved on here to the tournament, but instead they gave Memphis an opportunity to get back into the game. Memphis eventually ends up winning that game. Now UAB has to go on the road to take on St. Joe's in Philadelphia tonight. St. Joe's, a 5-point favorite. And I can tell you this, when it comes to these NITs or the CBI, these additional college basketball tournaments taking place, for these teams that lost in heartbreaking fashion in their conference tournaments, motivation might not be there for some of these early games. Keep that in mind. North Texas and Furman a little bit later. Also, North Alabama taking on Bradley at Bradley's place, and they have been next to unstoppable at home this year. Interesting game with Northern Iowa and SMU. SMU, of course, on the outside looking in. They, too, had plenty of opportunities in a very weak ACC, but instead they are going to host their first NIT game here tonight against, well, a pretty tough Northern Iowa team. And don't forget the late-night games tonight out west with Utah Valley taking on the Dons of San Francisco. The Dons, unbeatable at home this year. On the road, different story. The good news, the Dons are home tonight, taking on Utah Valley, laying a very short number, in fact. And how about Loyola of Chicago taking on San Jose State? San Jose State, boy, if those threes are falling, this is a very tough team. This is a team that is always a dog and has been absolute money as a dog all year long, cashing tickets. All they do is cover numbers. They'll have an opportunity to do that again tonight against Loyola. That game is 11 o'clock Eastern time. And one other I'll throw out there that I love the total and the over. The only problem is, so does everybody else at this point. This game opened up 148.5 as a total. Northern Colorado taking on UC Irvine. Remember what I said about these NIT totals being bet over? Well, it's now 153.5, and that may not be enough points here tonight in that game with Northern Colorado and UC Irvine. So plenty to be excited about as the madness is upon us. Let's not forget, though, we're going to be off and running in the association here. Plenty of games to break down, and we'll have plenty of NBA talk and winners for you. I promise we got a lot more still to come here as Game Time Decisions. Another hour is coming up next during this March Madness. Come back and join us on the grid.
They've made the Sweet 16 each of the past 2 years, but really getting beyond that, past the Elite Eight, to a Final Four, that is where the Vols have struggled.
UCLA, I don't even know if they get past Utah State in that 7-10 matchup, to be quite honest with you. A Kentucky team that goes in ebbs and flows. Illinois at the 6. Which Illinois team we getting?
Only on SportsGrid.
Kind of like this. I know Bosa gets banged up and he doesn't play a lot, but for 1 year, I could take a shot.
And guys go there and they play well. Guys go there and they have success. Guys go there, they go to the playoffs. And look, I thought Von Miller sucked. I think Joey Bosa is way better than Von Miller, not back in the day, but he is now.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on Sport.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Gators' resume is excellent. We know how hard it is to win on the road in college. They've won at Auburn and at Bama.
Michigan State is 17-5 in quad 1, quad 2s. Are they a 1 seed? I think not. They may make claims if they make a run and there's craziness in the SEC.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Off and running another hour together here. Game Time Decisions on the Sports Grid Network. I'm Joe Raineri. Appreciate you stopping by. The madness, it is here, folks. College basketball, one game underway for the play-in tonight. Big one coming up tonight with Xavier and Texas. Full slate in the NBA. Just 2 NHL games tonight, but a loaded slate tomorrow and this weekend. But let's not forget, we got some PGA Tour golf coming up, too, and I want to talk about all of it with our good friend Cam Stewart in the house. And Cam, light slate on the ice here tonight, although I think everybody has already decided there's going to be 19 goals with Toronto and Colorado, so we should just bet the over. But what were you thinking in this slate here tonight?
No, it's interesting, Joe, and that's the thing. I know a lot of people I respect in the gambling world, the over 1.5 in the first period. I'm not going to touch any of that. I am going to take the 6 for the game on the over, but I'm also going to take the Leafs plus 108 on your board there, plus 110 on my sports book. I understand Colorado needs points, but a lot of teams in the West need points, and I really like what I saw from the Leafs against Calgary, winning that game on St. Patrick's Day 6-2. They played well. You get Wedgwood in net for Colorado. I think this is a guy that can put some pucks between. He's been playing better. I'm going to give him a lot of credit, actually. Like, his goals against is respectable, 9-12. But I just think the Leafs are a little bit like, they play good against good opposition, Joe. And that's what it comes down to. And Colorado, I think a lot of people think they're just going to walk in there and beat these guys. The Leafs are a very weird team. They're streaky, too. So they can win like a couple of games in a row. Then they'll lay an egg against a team like Columbus, or, you know what I mean? Or somebody else. Like, when Colorado comes to town, though, from my recollection, when these teams get together with star power, Matthews, Makar, Nylander, everybody, I expect fireworks, some end-to-end hockey. I know everyone's on the over. I'm not sure about this first period over at 1.5, but I do like over 6 for the game, and I like Toronto. And I think they got a good shot. In the other game, Wild in Seattle, it's 5.5, Joe. I lean under in that hockey game. Seattle was great to us last night, and I actually think Minnesota, but I don't want to lay 60 cents with the Wild. So I also did a parlay to plus money with the Leafs plus 1.5 with Minnesota on the money line. But I like Toronto to the over 6 and Minnesota to the under 5.5.
Yeah, like that look there. Kraken haven't won back-to-back road games yet this year. I doubt very much they're going to do it here tonight against Minnesota.
The Valspar, my friend, one of the final legs here of the Florida Tour on the PGA, getting ready after, I don't know what that was at the Players. There were just so many weird things about that tournament. This should be a little less chalky, you think, this tournament, Cam?
It's interesting, Joe, because I'm looking at this tournament and going, the chalk, like, do you trust these guys? I don't trust Tommy Fleetwood to win at like 11-1. Top 10, sure. Top 20, yes. Like, I would even lay 20, like, in for a top 20, that is probably a safe bet. Sepp Straka's getting 16-1. I'm like, what? I used to get this guy at 50-1. Like, I get it. It's a weakened field, but I'm looking at the chalk. Xander Schauffele, you talked off air. This guy is obviously not ready to play golf right now. And at the Valspar, it's a tough tournament, man. You know what happens at Innsbruck. Those winds pick up and things get really stupid there. My buddy's dad's a bagpiper, Joe. He actually has the gig. He comes in there with the bagpipes before the tournament. So my friend is actually down at the tournament now watching his old man perform in that area. So it's going to be a great time. I'm expecting heavy winds, as a lot of the golf cappers are. But I'm starting down the board, buddy. And you know me, us golf bettors, we're too greedy. But I'm looking at guys mid-tier. For my outrights right now, Joe, we'll go over top 10s and 20s, and I want to get your thoughts as well. Lucas Glover has a fantastic track record here. And one thing I know about Lucas Glover is he nuts balls, man, right down the middle. He's got a great iron game. It's all about that damn long putter. If he can get it to cooperate, I like his odds at 45-1. Alex Smalley from Duke has been knocking on the door, playing very, very well right now, trending in the right direction. 55-1 seems like a very, very nice price for a guy that I think should be kind of in the mid-30s. Jacob Bridgman checks a lot of boxes. I know he could be a trendy hipster pick this week, Joe. I don't want to be on too many of those guys, but Carver and I, we talked to K-Stu as well, part of the SportsGrid golf team with everybody here, and he likes Bridgman. This guy is really trending. He's playing well, lots of top 10s and 20s, and this is the type of course. You need to be a ball striker here. You just need to keep it in play. Don't be fancy. It's not about length. That's the whole thing. Like, guys like Eric Cole can be involved here, but that's what I think. I like Bridgman. Couple other guys, Steven Jaeger, Joe. Hopefully, Joe, we can hit one on Sunday instead of me crying over Jaeger bombs. I'd like to celebrate with some as I'm watching my Will Zalatoris tickets at 80-1 live go down the toilet. That was absolutely hard to deal with watching the players. I feel bad for our friend Brady Cannon. He had a friggin' JJ Spawn ticket at 110-1. The good news is though, Joe, when you're in a two-man playoff with McIlroy, he can do the math and go, what's my head situation? It's not a three-man, a four-man. You know what I mean? He has the perfect math to go, I can carve this in half, make myself some money, whatever he bet on. So I know he's going to be eating well. I know he probably hedged out of that bet. And Jake Afternoon Knapp is another guy. I'm taking a lot of guys who are just playing well on the Florida swing. Joe, you remember him with the 59 a couple weeks ago at the Cognizant to start his tournament. He's a hot starter. I think he can hang on here. 80-1 is a great, great price for Knapp. But a lot of the golf guys, we all like Jaeger this week. Me, Carver, hopefully you do too, because I can't lie, Joe. I need to bounce back after last week. Some of my bets really hit the tank. Like I had Fleetwood. I thought he was right there. He gagged. Zalatoris live gagged. I was just sitting there going, oh, God. And I should have just, not got greedy. I looked at Rory, but he didn't really. It was honest. What do you think, Joe? It was like everybody was horrible. He was the least horrible. Like I'm really surprised. Like a lot of guys mentally broke down. And I thought, just take bogey. Don't bring triple and quad into the occasion, but they did. A lot of guys really threw this tournament away, and some of them at very big odds.
It made no sense, too, because the weather cooperated the first couple of days in that tournament. Outside of Sunday, I mean, it was guys just head-scratching. But I love Bridgman. I saw him here at the Cognizant. There isn't anywhere this kid can't get up and down from. I think he even finished top 10 or top 15 at Bay Hill as well, and that is a great number for him. Around the green, the kid was absolutely phenomenal. But I think Will Zalatoris, I think it's in the cards for him. I loved him before he got hurt with the back problems. It's taken him a little while, but what we just saw last week, he's winning. And you better hurry up and get him while he's 40-50-1, because as soon as he breaks through, Cam, we ain't getting him anymore at that price.
It was between him and Connors, right? Because Connors checks a lot of boxes. The problem with Corey Connors is a lot of the time his putter doesn't cooperate. But Will Zalatoris, until that crazy hole, the 14th, where he put it in the fescue and then went nuts and complicated his problems, he was nailing putts. And the announcers were mentioning it too. They go, he looks really comfortable over the ball. And that's the thing. Zalatoris stripes it. He put on 15 pounds. We know like he needed a little bit more distance. He smokes it. And I'm telling you, Joe, I love it. I have some top 20 picks, and I'm going to ride your Zalatoris pick. I found him on one book at 45. Joe's right, guys. If you can get Zalatoris over like 38-1, he's a guy I'm adding to my card. Corey Connors for a top 20, Joe, plus 130. Zalatoris, as I mentioned, plus 160 for a top 20. Top 20 with Ben Griffin, plus 220. And Sam Ryder's on the Storm, who's actually figured out his driver for a top 40. He's plus 175, Joe. That's what's making the card this week. Got a few other first-round leaders, too, we could do after the break, because if we have first-round leaders that come in, we'll just throw that money into NCAA bets, because we're going to be betting basketball all day Thursday and Friday, my friend. You know that.
Cam, I love that approach. A little first-round leader, always a good way, and you had been crushing those here to start the season, man. You would, every week I would talk to Cam, be like, first-round leader, done, cash, first-round leader, done, cash. Yeah, exactly. So, there's plenty more where that came from. And maybe, just maybe, there's an overall outright dog that's going to win over the next couple of days. Either way, we're going to find out. So come back and join us as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start, so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on this Wednesday as the madness is already underway in college basketball. We got plenty of NBA action coming up here tonight. We'll get you caught up with, but want to bring in not only, once again, our good friend Cam Stewart, but how about Mr. Adam Kaufman, too? Bring them all in. It's a party. It's called Madness, gentlemen. It's March. Everything is off the hook here. But Cam, the Valspar, we were talking about it. You gave us a couple of looks at some outright winners, but I love those first-round leader looks. Lay them out for us, man. What are we looking at?
Got to be honest, Joe, I do better with the first-round leader market than I do on Sunday when I'm usually sitting there watching my guy, as I mentioned, driving into neighbors' pools or do other bad things. But we'll take Zalatoris at 40-1. I'll take him in the tournament at 45. You found him too, Joe. You're right. I have to add him to my card at that price. Jake Knapp, you know I have him at 80, 60. He's a notorious hot starter. Remember the 59 at Cognizant. If he gets that putter going, he can go low. Jacob Bridgman, Joe talked about his game. Up and down, up and down, up and down. He also hit birdie putts. Corey Connors was a boost on my book. I'm not sure if you guys are going to find 60 there, but that's a great number for Corey Connors, who played really well last week. Steven Yeager, he's a notorious hot starter and played very, very well at the Players. And Sam Ryder, to me, at 110-1 is one of the craziest bets. This guy's actually starting to really figure it out. His driver is cooperating, and once he can putt, this guy can get on the birdie train. 110-1 for Sam Ryder's on the score. First-round leader, a great price.
Oh, and Cam, I believe the guy last year that won it was a 500-1 bomb, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
yes, that would have.
Malnati with a hat like me, the skin cancer brim. He's got a hat the size of my friggin' my head. Like, that thing is huge. He's got a Titleist like dome hat that like literally takes up the green. Yeah, no, Malnati's got he's got. That's what you see me when I'm golfing, Joe. I'm like I'm in freaking Toronto right now. I look like I'm in Cuba. Got a sunburn. You should see me on the golf course. I get absolutely shredded. But yeah, Malnati was 100-1. Can you believe that guy won last year?
Wow.
And he missed 5 out of 7 cuts before winning. So current form, sometimes it's a good thing, but not with this guy. You can come out of the woodwork. Craziness.
Oh my God. With that hat, he can do whatever he wants there, Cam. I love it. Adam, what is going on here? What are you more interested in tonight, the college or the NBA slate here tonight?
I just love that we're sitting here with the Brady Bunch setup. You know, it's like, here's the story of a guy named Raineri. Listen, I'm probably a little bit more interested in the NBA. Look, I've got my college investments. I am proud to be an American, and hopefully the Americans will find a way to come up with this W tonight. Last look, just down by a couple. You guys were talking about it off air. What a high scoring this game. A live line in terms of the total approaching 160 right now. That's midway crazy. Through the opening half, which is insane between these two teams. So look, I'm not heavily invested tonight. I am with what feels like the rest of the country, who I guess out of I don't know, U.S. pride is sided with the American University minus 2.5. I would like that to come to fruition. Have some other teams, some favorites like you name it. I mean, St. Joe's and Dayton and teams like that, just in money line parlay mess around. The real fun, as we know, begins tomorrow as far as the all day don't get off the couch betting and all of that.
Screw tariffs, Adam. NBA. I'm the Prime Minister of Canada and I'm on American tonight.
See that?
Give me plus 5.5 and 4.5. Buy American. I like them live right now, guys. Getting 4.5. I already got them 5.5. I don't know how that total. 160. You kidding me? These guys, I don't know if that can keep up. That's nuts.
No, they got absolutely not.
The NBA's got some interesting spots tonight. You know, some big spreads though. Like, do we look on paper? If you were to ignore injury reports, you would say, of course, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to beat the Philadelphia 76ers by 750 points. But this is not a normal game. SGA's not playing, obviously, for OKC. Hartenstein may not play. Jalen Williams has been out. You know, Dort, I think, is missing this game. Lou Dort, he's out as well. And so, I mean, it's basically going to be, on one side, the Aaron Wiggins, don't confuse him with Andrew Wiggins, the Aaron Wiggins show for OKC. And on the other one, I mean, Grimes is not allowing this team to go down in flames. Philadelphia is bad. It should be openly in tank mode between no Maxey, no Embiid, no George, no class of any kind. And yet here we are. Grimes is probably going to put up 30 points tonight because he's the only offensive outlet. I think we're going to get a game here. I think the Sixers actually cover the number. OKC wins. Don't get me wrong. They're home and everything, but this total, hell, it opened. It was -9. It's ballooned to 12.5. I would take the Sixers with the points.
Yeah, we've seen this time and time again. By the way, Zach LaVine ruled out for personal reasons tonight for Sacramento, who needs to rack up some wins here. And I can't believe it, but don't look now. Cleveland is on a losing streak, Cam,
Two.
and two, right? And we got no LeBron again tonight for LA, and it feels like everyone's running to the window to bet Denver. What is your late night look here, Cam, in the NBA?
I got to tell you, man, after that last game, so everybody and their mother's out for, what was it? Was it Denver that night?
Oklahoma City. Yeah.
No, it was Golden State. What game was that,
Golden
Joe?
State.
The line went from four.
Golden State.
It was Golden State. It went from 4.5 to 12, and they lose outright. And Denver had nobody. That's the thing about the NBA. I almost want to take the team with all the guys that are hurt. So I have a lean to Cleveland in the spot, Joe. I just think, they're not going to lose 3 games in a row. I don't like to, catch a falling knife, but I think that's the play tonight. I believe in this team. They had some real close ones. Tough loss to the Clippers, but I'm going to tell you, I like Cleveland a lot. In the second game in college, too, I'm not sure if we're going to go over that because I'm not going to be on next segment with you guys. I'm with Adam, though. American early plus 5.5 live, and I like Texas against Xavier. I know some people like Xavier. I'm going to take the Texas Longhorns, getting 3, sprinkle on the money line.
Oh, getting a little, what is it, 3 now? Yeah, back up to 3, it looks like here, as that's been going back and forth. That should be the game of the night for sure in college, but lot in the NBA getting ready to go on, and quite honestly, Washington or Utah? Anybody? If a tree falls?
That's my garbage bill
my
special
word.
tonight. Oh,
That
Joe,
is
give me
you,
the
Cam.
dumpster. Some jazz
That
in
is
the dumpster, buddy.
dumpster dive game of the night.
That's me. I'm just hanging outside my dumpster with my broken saxophone, playing some jazz.
Boom.
Yeah, give me the
Exactly correct.
Nice and dirty.
Love it. Cam Stewart, get out of here. We appreciate it. Adam, come on back. We got more NBA here as Game Time Decisions continues.
They've made the Sweet 16 each of the past 2 years, but really getting beyond that, past the Elite 8 to a Final Four, that is where the Vols have struggled.
UCLA, I don't even know if they get past Utah State in that 7-10 matchup, to be quite honest with you. A Kentucky team that goes in ebbs and flows. Illinois at the 6. Which Illinois team we getting?
Only on SportsGrid.
Kind of like this. I know Bosa gets banged up and he doesn't play a lot, but for 1 year, I could take a shot.
And guys go there and they play well. Guys go there and they have success. Guys go there, they go to the playoffs. And look, I thought Von Miller sucked. I think Joey Bosa is way better than Von Miller, not back in the day, but he is now.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on Sport.
2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Gators' resume is excellent. We know how hard it is to win on the road in college. They've won at Auburn and at Bama.
Michigan State is 17-5 in quad 1, quad 2s. Are they a 1 seed? I think not. They may make claims if they make a run and there's craziness in the SEC.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Adam Kaufman here. The NBA off and running here tonight, Adam, with a couple games underway. Orlando at home
On top of Houston, 16-10. Indiana out in front of Dallas, who I don't believe anybody is playing for at this point. Maybe P.J. Washington, that's it. Everyone else was ruled out. 17-10. But we got Miami and Detroit coming up next year in about 20 minutes. And listen, there's nothing more infuriating than the Miami Heat season, but this is the bottom of the market here. They are still battling for a spot. Nobody has thrown in the white flag. As bad as they have been, you're still giving me 5 points here in Miami and a desperate team. Feels like this could be a spot maybe where you buy low in the marketplace.
Yeah, I think I would be intrigued. Thing is, this is an important game to Detroit as well. Not of the same significance, obviously. Detroit, in all likelihood, is going to have a playoff spot, and Miami is fighting for the opportunity to have a playoff spot, but it's going to be in the play-in tournament, right? So you've got two teams that really, more than anything else, are just jockeying for seeding. The Pistons aren't going to fall out of the top 6. The Heat aren't going to climb beyond 7. They're not going to fall out of 10. So these teams, it's not as important as it would feel like it should be, which is why I think in part, on the Miami side, and as you said, this team has been atrocious of late. 7-8 straight losses. Andrew Wiggins is not playing in this one. Tyler Hero has been woefully inconsistent. Bam has been turning his season around of late, but this team, it's not clicking in the way that obviously Spoelstra, Riley, and all those guys would like it to. I think I would be inclined to side with Miami with the points only because it is in Miami, but there's no doubt that Detroit is the better team, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the Pistons cover the number. For me, it's more of a stay away spot. But again, if I had to side, I would look toward Miami because there's just ever so slightly more on the line trying to play for which team gets to be at home within that play-in tournament to try and advance, obviously, get the one win as opposed to needing 2, all of those ramifications, as opposed to Detroit knowing it's already going to be part of a first-round series.
Mitchell Robinson has been upgraded to playing here tonight for the Knicks. They're in San Antonio. I'm not seeing a lot of crazy line movement. They're still laying 8.5. The total has come down a little bit here, and this Knicks team is interesting, too. Feels like they're just trying to tread water until they can get Brunson back.
Yeah, this team's been a little frustrating at points, to say the very least. And Karl Anthony Towns has not been sort of the offensive spark plug you would want him to be when there is no Brunson available, because it's not like, Anunoby or Hart and these guys are consistently picking up the slack either. So you really need Towns to give you 25 plus points the way you could almost so reliably get from Brunson. He just doesn't always do it. And the rebounds have been weighed down. Every night you look at his projections and it's, 11, 12, maybe 13 rebounds for Towns. And then he finishes with 7. So he needs to start to get a little bit more aggressive around the glass as well. I do think, obviously, the Knicks even still are the better team. I think that, Towns has done well against the Spurs this year. Clearly, there's no Wemby on the other side this time around, so that helps. I do think Towns is going to have a good game. I don't know that I would go over on his points or his rebounds singularly. If anything else, I'd probably go over on the points-rebounds combo, just not knowing which area is going to be stronger. But on the other side, you think about just how decimated by injuries and guys getting ruled out, not only, game by game, but for the season that the Spurs have had to endure. Castle, who obviously is the odds-on runaway now, favored for Rookie of the Year. I like him to have a big game. I'd alt him up to 20-plus points. I think he goes off in this one.
Oh, I like that a lot here. Did you make a decision on the Lakers and Denver game tonight? Are you thinking an over? It just feels like, why not points in this one?
Yeah, last time they matched up, you did get a high-scoring game, and it was a really close game, and Denver had to come back to win it, obviously. I would go over with the points if I were going to place that bet. I would be more intrigued, though, I think, by going over points plus assists for Luka Doncic because, again, the offense has really been filtering through him. It has to with no LeBron James, and there's some inconsistency there in Austin Reeves' game. So Luka has to be the guy, and I think he takes these matchups with Joker on the other side kind of personally, knowing it's star versus star. So I think he responds, and I think Jokic does as well. You know, we surprisingly, let alone triple-double, we didn't even get a double-double out of him the last time these two teams matched up last week.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I don't know that I would chase that, but I think he goes over on his points.
Game Time Decisions continues. Adam, we appreciate it, man.
They've made the Sweet 16 each of the past 2 years, but really getting beyond that, past the Elite Eight, to a Final Four, that is where the Vols have struggled.
UCLA, I don't even know if they get past Utah State in that 7-10 matchup, to be quite honest with you. A Kentucky team that goes in ebbs and flows. Illinois at the 6. Which Illinois team we getting?
Only on SportsGrid.
Kind of like this. I know Bosa gets banged up and he doesn't play a lot, but for 1 year, I could take a shot.
And guys go there and they play well. Guys go there and they have success. Guys go there, they go to the playoffs. And look, I thought Von Miller sucked. I think Joey Bosa is way better than Von Miller, not back in the day, but he is now.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on Sports.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Gators' resume is excellent. We know how hard it is to win on the road in college. They've won at Auburn and at Bama.
Michigan State is 17-5 in quad 1, quad 2s. Are they a 1 seed? I think not. They may make claims if they make a run and there's craziness in the SEC.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network as we're keeping our eye on the scoreboard. They are at the break with Mount St. Mary's taking on American in Dayton. Of course, two more of those play-in games. This one for a 16 seed. And Mount St. Mary's on top 48-38 right now. What a high-scoring game for a total that closed at 127.5, and they almost have that already, given what these two teams have done in the first half. But in addition to a great night in the NBA, and of course more madness, we do have plenty of PGA Tour golf on hand coming up, especially as we get ready for Augusta. That'll be here before we know it. And I'd like to welcome in our good friend, JJ Spawn. No, I'm sorry, Brady Cannon. Brady Cannon is here, who gave us JJ Spawn last week, and unfortunately just couldn't get it done there on that extra day of golf. But another winning ticket there in many aspects, Brady. I don't know what to do with the Valspar. It feels like there could be a phone book odds guy that wins this game here or wins this tournament. Lay it out for us here. What are we doing at the Valspar?
I think the story of the week, really, Joe, has been the weather and what are we going to do on Thursday and Friday with the draw. Now, the weekend is supposed to be very, very calm, very little wind, under 10 miles an hour. But tomorrow and Friday, we're supposed to get stuff into the 20, 25 mile an hour neighborhood. And the topic of conversation all week long has been a draw bias. It looks right now like the guys that tee off early on Thursday and go out late on Friday will have a decided advantage because there won't be much wind on Thursday morning, and then it's supposed to die down again on Friday afternoon. Now, it looked like it was absolutely a cut and dry disadvantage for those that were going late Thursday and early Friday. But it appears, you know how Mother Nature is and weather reports.
Yep.
It looks like maybe it's not so pronounced as it looked like it was earlier in the week. And I've talked with a lot of people in the golf betting community, and some people are saying, well, it looks pretty nasty. And other people are saying, you know what, I think they're making a lot out of nothing, or a mountain out of a molehill. I do believe there is some sort of disadvantage and advantage for one side or the other, but I don't know if it's as stark as it looked at the beginning of the week. I ended up taking 3 guys that are in the early wave and 3 guys that are in the late wave. And, I'll cross my fingers and hope everybody gets a fair shake.
So let me ask you. Last year we saw a great hat at 300 to 1 win this tournament here. Malnaldi, and I don't think we're going to get that again this year. But it just feels like there are a lot of younger guys with big numbers here that are playing, especially in the Florida swing. They're playing really, really good golf, and this feels like a kind of tournament where, one of those guys at 50, 60, 70 to 1 could break through here.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And the guys that are teeing off late on Thursday, some books have completely gone bonkers. And, a guy that was maybe 40 to 1 early in the week, they're putting him out at 100 to 1 because they think he's on the wrong side of the wind. And I mean, Ben Griffin is a guy that I took, and I got Ben Griffin at 60 to 1. And I've seen him as high as like 100, 80 or 100 with, when the tee times came out, the guys that got that late start, everybody just boosted their odds like crazy, like they've got no shot to win this thing. And again, like I say, I think there's been overreaction. So to your point, a guy like Ben Griffin, he's got 3 top 10s already this season. He's been really, really good. I got him before the tee times came out. So, 60 to 1, I have him. Looks like a bad number now, but 100 to 1 is crazy if you want to jump on him. JT Poston, a guy we were on last week and cashed a top 20 finish for us. I took him at 40. He's now at like 80 or something like that. And it's all over the place. You got to shop around. Like, I've seen some books that have adjusted him, about $10, went from 45 to 1 to 55 because he's teeing off late. I've seen other books that have doubled the price on him. So you can really get some crazy numbers out there because some of these books have gone just off the rails with this reaction to the weather report. But Griffin and Poston and then Lucas Glover were 3 of the guys that I took that tee off late on Thursday. Glover was awesome at the Players' Championship last week and finished 3rd in another signature event earlier this year at Pebble Beach. And I tell you, Joe, we've been doing this long enough. I typically don't go to the top with the chalk, but I went with Tommy Fleetwood this week. He's teeing off early, so that, could be very much of an advantage. I think he's clearly the best player in this field. He's been playing fantastic golf. One of these days, this guy has won multi-million dollars all over the world, has won multi-tournaments all over the world, never won on the PGA Tour. This could be the week against a pretty darn good field, but I think he is absolutely the alpha dog here at the Valspar.
Yeah, he certainly is, and it's interesting. How many weeks away from Augusta now are we, Brady? It feels like it's going to be here before. Yeah, 3 weeks are going, and we still have guys like Jordan Spieth in here, which is interesting. Victor Hovland, who I keep waiting, and so do you, and it just doesn't seem to be getting it together. But it feels like our boy Willie Z is getting close, doesn't it? It feels like he's a top 10, top 20 guy here this week, does he not?
I'm with you, and I think he's on the bad side of the draw, if I recall. I think he got a late tee time, but again, we don't know if that's really going to amount to much or not.
Yeah.
I think it's going to mean something, but I don't think it's as aggressive as it looked like it could have been at the beginning of the week. Hopefully we don't get a ton of wind and everybody gets a fair shake here, but I'm with you. Willie Z's been playing pretty darn well the last couple of weeks, and we know how he's done at Augusta before. He's also done very well at Riviera at the Genesis Invitational, was runner-up last year to Hideki Matsuyama, and there's a huge connection with Riviera and Augusta. So, guys that have won at Riviera have also won, including Hideki, So, yeah, Zalatoris makes a lot of sense. And I think you can still find him in the neighborhood of 50-1 to win the Masters, which is a nice price. I wouldn't go. I think I've seen as low as 35. I'm not in love with that number at all, but I would say 45 or better. I think Zalatoris is a good bet for a few weeks from now at Augusta.
So Putnam, Jaeger, Fleetwood. What are we doing here with this trio?
Those are my early guys. Those are the guys that I have that are teeing off early. Fleetwood, of course, the favorite. Nice. I got 12-1 on him. I've seen him as low as 9-1. Jaeger's a guy that, he's kind of always been labeled as a bomber, but his putting is really improved, and I think he can make his way around this track. He's got an early draw as well. I got him at 60. I think I got him at 65, and I've seen him drop because of his favorable tee time. I've seen him drop to about 50-1, and then Putnam's a long bomb. Putnam is a triple-digit, 150-1 guy, but he's been playing really, really well. It's kind of odd. All the correlated courses, the guy has killed it. He's done great at all the courses that are very similar to the Valspar, but he's never made the cut here. He's 0 for 4. I'm hoping this is the week because he's playing maybe some of the best golf of his career, and he made sense to me this week. So he's the long bomb. We'll see, but I'm hoping Fleetwood gets it, man. We'd all love to see this guy finally win on the tour.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt he's somebody you want to look at. Coming up at Augusta too as well.
Yep.
Always seems to be so close, but just can't break through. But keep an eye on the weather. That's what it's all about, Brady. And we'll talk to you again on Friday as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
They've made the Sweet 16 each of the past 2 years, but really getting beyond that, past the Elite Eight, to a Final Four, that is where the Vols have struggled.
UCLA, I don't even know if they get past Utah State in that 7-10 matchup, to be quite honest with you. A Kentucky team that goes in ebbs and flows. Illinois at the 6. Which Illinois team we getting?
Only on SportsGrid.
Kind of like this. I know Bosa gets banged up and he doesn't play a lot, but for 1 year, I could take a shot.
And guys go there and they play well. Guys go there and they have success. Guys go there, they go to the playoffs. And look, I thought Von Miller sucked. I think Joey Bosa is way better than Von Miller, not back in the day, but he is now.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Sport.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The Gators' resume is excellent. We know how hard it is to win on the road in college. They've won at Auburn and at Bama.
Michigan State is 17-5 in quad 1, quad 2s. Are they a 1 seed? I think not. They may make claims if they make a run and there's craziness in the SEC.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we get ready for madness. It's already happening here as the second night for the play-in tournament underway. They are at the break, the 16 seed on the line, Mount St. Mary's, taking it to American Eagles here, 48-38 in a game that was 2.5, 3 points for American with a total of 128.5, 127.5. Well, they keep scoring like this. Bye-bye. This over will be hit here in the first 5 minutes of the second half. Let's welcome in our good friend, Scotty Wetzel, Mr. Opposite Picks in the house. He'll be taking the reins at the top of the hour for a little in-game live. And, man, 48-38 is not what I had on the bingo card with these two teams, Scotty, who average about 50 points a game. But not tonight. But a 10-point lead is a big lead after the first half in a matchup like this.
Yeah, I love the over. I love that. I like the over. How can you love, right? How many times have we watched Mount St. Mary's in American, right? So, but I did like the over, and I do my thing in the afternoon, this, that, or have a bite to eat. Watch the start of the game. Okay, go away, and I come back and I see the score. I'm like, oh, don't tell me this thing went way under. Are you kidding me? And then I realized it's only the halftime. I thought this would be like a final score, 48-38.
Yep.
This is nuts. Keep the over coming. Over 156.5. Heard you say it before. You might just as well go over second half as well, the way things are going with these two teams. I wouldn't mind a little nibble, get back some of my assumed win on the over 128. I got it at 128.5. Maybe American plus 8.5, thinking they're going to keep it somewhat close, get back into this thing a little bit. I mean, this should be a 1 or 2 possession game, right? So maybe American plus the 8.5 need some more action.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the scoring is going to slow down. Neither of these teams, they already have hit more threes in this game than they did all season long as an average in a game. So there's going to be regression at some point. The question is with who and when does it happen? I don't know what to do in the nightcap here, though. The game after here for that 11 seed up for grabs between Texas and Xavier. How are you leaning in this one? I'm starting to see 2.5s now, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah. Joe, it's you're going to have to pick your side. That's how I kind of view this SEC thing, because the SEC is so great that they got to put 14 teams in, right? But I wonder if they're so good, how come Texas, Georgia, Arkansas, Oklahoma are all underdogs, and Mississippi State's basically pick them against Baylor? I mean, I thought the SEC was so great, right? So I'm going to buy into the committee. Don't ask why. And I'm going to play all these SEC underdogs. You want to give me 2.5, 3.5, depending on what line you get. I know you're right. It's down to 2.5 against, a mediocre Xavier team. I'll take it. I know Xavier finished up strong, 7-1, losing in the Big East tournament. Otherwise, they'd won 7 straight, so that they're playing well. But it's still the almighty SEC, and you're giving me points. I'd even sprinkle a couple of bucks on the money line, but, take the 2.5 and hope the SEC is as powerful as people say they're supposed to be.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out here coming up 9 o'clock tonight. But another game that I found interesting was this Northern Iowa SMU game. Northern Iowa is no joke. They are pesky. And if I'm SMU, I'm kind of deflated that now I'm hosting an NIT game, right? I'm not in the big dance in such a weak ACC, class that we had this year. It feels like this is a ton of points to give a Northern Iowa team.
Yeah, I generally, how many times you play the NIT or CBI, right? Who knows if these kids really care about playing? So you look for teams that might have that mental edge of, we want to be here. And Northern Iowa fits it. So does Bradley the next game, Joe. I like both Missouri Valley teams. Northern Iowa 20-12, pretty good, 14-6 in the Valley. They only had 2 losses outside of Bradley and Drake, which were the 2 top teams in the Missouri Valley. They got 3 wins over NCAA tournament teams, does Northern Iowa. So there really is. Then you throw in the motivation factor. You're right. Northern Iowa, this is the greatest thing in the world. For SMU, we were hoping to get to the NCAA tournament. This is a bummer. Maybe they win, but I wouldn't want to be laying 9.5. I think Northern Iowa, they play slow. Should be a lower scoring game as well. I think they could easily cover that 9.5, if not win outright, to tell you the truth. And then with Bradley, same thing, laying only 4.5, albeit at home. North Alabama? Really? Bradley was 26-8 this year, 15-5 in the Missouri Valley, 8-3 on the road, which, they're at home here, but it shows you that it wasn't all done, at home. They were a good team, home and away, 8-2 their last 10. I think laying only 4.5 at home with Bradley over North Alabama is pretty good. So
don't hate that at all here. How about in the NBA? Just underway now. Detroit taking on Miami in Miami. And, of course, Miami on the worst losing streak of the Eric Spoelstra tenure. They need to get some wins at some point. What do we do here tonight against Detroit?
Yeah, greatest sports axiom of all time, right? Winners bet with streaks, losers bet against streaks. So Detroit is heading into Miami, a Heat team that's lost 8 in a row. As you mentioned, the yard laying odds 4.5. I mean, who wants to do that, right? But this Piston team has been really good against the spread, not only winning games straight up, but also as road favorites as well. So until Miami shows they really want to make the playoffs, and I have my doubts about that, take the Pistons, lay the 4.5 points that you get still right now, early on.
Oh, look at it. Taking the Pistons here tonight. What about OKC? And I believe they called you to play for them tonight since nobody else is playing for them. But they are taking on the Sixers, so that should be fairly easy.
Yeah, keep in mind, this is the same team that sat all five starters and still won the game. I forget who they were playing. They got fined for it, but they can do it without the SG and all the other good players that they have. And Philadelphia's they're in the tank, right? They've shown no desire to win. So that line opened up at 9.5, and it is up to 12 in some circles now. But that's okay. Give me OKC at home. They're not losing at home to Philadelphia, and they'll cover the number.
It feels like that would be a show. Are you taking the Cavs to finally end the losing streak?
That's it. Last chance. Take them tonight. If they don't win tonight, then that means they've turned it off. No big deal. Let's head into the postseason. Rest all our guys. We don't care about it anymore. This will be the last shot.
Love it. Scotty, we'll see you here in a couple of minutes for In-Game Live as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
They've made the Sweet 16 each of the past 2 years, but really getting beyond that, past the Elite Eight, to a Final Four, that is where the Vols have struggled.
UCLA, I don't even know if they get past Utah State in that 7-10 matchup, to be quite honest with you. A Kentucky team that goes in ebbs and flows. Illinois at the 6. Which Illinois team we getting?
Only on SportsGrid.
Kind of like this. I know Bosa gets banged up and he doesn't play a lot, but for 1 year, I could take a shot.
And guys go there and they play well. Guys go there and they have success. Guys go there, they go to the playoffs. And look, I thought Von Miller sucked. I think Joey Bosa is way better than Von Miller, not back in the day, but he is now.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on Sport.
The two guys that can do it all. Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The Gators' resume is excellent. We know how hard it is to win on the road in college. They've won at Auburn and at Bama.
Michigan State is 17-5 in quad 1, quad 2s. Are they a 1 seed? I think not. They may make claim if they make a run and there's craziness in the SEC.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network as we get ready to pass the baton off to Scotty Wetzel and the gang as In-Game Live is coming up and plenty of madness underway here tonight in college basketball. I believe they're getting ready to start the second half with the 16th seed and the right to play Auburn, I believe, on the line here with Mount St. Mary's taking on American, and it has been all Mount St. Mary's early. They took a 10-point lead into the break. Now it's an 8-point lead right now, 50-42, with about 18 and a half minutes to go in the game on that one. At the break, a pretty good one also in Boca Raton with the FAU Owls in the NIT right now. Dayton, with a flurry of points there at the end, have a 44-38 lead at the break. This was pretty much a pick-em price, but Dayton is the number one seed in the NIT. And keep in mind, at the NIT, the home teams, this isn't neutral site locations. They are at home, and FAU is at home right now in this one, taking on Dayton. Sanford and George Mason. Sanford has not played a game in about 2 weeks. And they all of a sudden had to play now a George Mason team that went to their conference final. And it shows because Sanford looks like they haven't played in about two and a half weeks. 43-24. George Mason out on top there. Not a good situation at all. And we had mentioned the UAB Blazers. How do you think it felt for them to have Memphis on the ropes and then to basically cough up that game and not punch their ticket to March Madness and the tournament? Instead, they had to hop on a plane and head to Philadelphia to take on St. Joseph's in this NIT battle. But they're hanging strong, 33-32 at the break in that one there. And of course, coming up 9 o'clock Eastern time, right after this Mount St. Mary's American game, will be the other play-in game between Xavier and the University of Texas in that matchup there. I do like Xavier in this spot. I also don't mind the under, and that is simply because, A, we got a neutral site game, but B, we have seen Texas all year long. Listen, if the shots are dropping, this team has got Trey Johnson, one of the best freshman guards in the country. He is one of the future players if he continues to stay in college. This kid is unbelievable. But you know what? The problem with this team is they're do or die with jump shots. They don't take threes all that much. They're not great at hitting them. But boy, oh boy, are they really good at finding the open guy. Passing the ball, assists, and of course, being really good at jump shooting helps that. But they do go through these long droughts of not scoring in games, and that is a very dangerous proposition to do against a Musketeers team that, quite honestly, has more shooters and a big man in Zach Fremantle there. That it will be over before it's late in that game there. Also, Ryan Cornwell, the freshman for Xavier, kid out of Indiana State that transferred in. Unbelievable what he has brought to this table. This is a team that can absolutely, before you know it, you're down double digits. Love their coach. I do think Xavier's got a pretty good opportunity to handle business and advance in this spot in this game. So keep an eye on that. That, of course, is going to be the game of the night. Make no mistake about it. A number 11 seed is on the line in that one. We also have teams battling in the NBA down the stretch here of the regular season, getting ready for the playoffs. There are teams that, listen, they got to try to win as many games as possible just to get in the tournament. And right now, we got a couple of games with those kinds of ramifications, including the Dallas Mavericks. How they're even at this point is beyond me, but yes, they're taking on the Pacers with about 4 minutes to go, 56-46 in that one. Pacers on top. And the Magic, how about it? The Orlando Magic at home on top of the Houston Rockets. But maybe the game with the most juice right now is the Miami Heat on an 8-game losing streak. And right now they're on top of the Detroit Pistons at home, trying to end that streak and solidify a postseason berth, 17-13 on top of the Pistons. In-game live is coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Game Time Decisions. We'll see you again tomorrow on the grid.